The bride grabs the waitress's hand, revealing a hidden scar at the unexpected wedding. Amelia was in the thick of it. The cafe buzzed with a kind of energy that danced on your skin, and today it felt electric. Her hands moved expertly, balancing plates of buttery croissants and steaming lattes. But the real spectacle was unfolding just outside. The wedding. Glittering decor flared in the sunlight, the festive chatter spilling over when champagne from a chilled bottle. She could smell the sea, salty and wild, mixing with the sweet scent of jasmine. But that aroma was overshadowed by something darker, lurking beneath. The air crackled with tension. And then she saw her, Cassandra, the blushing bride, dressed in a gown that glittered like the morning sun on the waves. But amid the laughter and clinking glasses, chaos erupted. A sudden gust of wind sent the carefully arranged flowers swirling like confetti, and a hush fell over the crowd. In a heartbeat, it went from a celeb. But it wasn't the wedding planner who reached out. It was Cassandra, eyes wide, fear flickering across her face. The bride seized Amelia's wrist, pulling her closer in desperation. "Please, And that's when Amelia caught a glimpse of it. A scar running down Cassandra's forearm, jagged and deep. "Cassandra, what happened?" The question slipped from Amelia's lips before she could stop it. The weight of that scar, the rawness of it, echoed in her own insecurities, thrumming like a heartbeat between them. "I don't know," Cassandra gasped, shaking her head as though trying to dislodge the moment. I can't be the perfect bride today." Amelia's pulse quickened. Perfect. What did that mean? She was just a waitress, drowning in her culinary dreams. Every table she served felt like a reminder of what she wasn't. A chef. A creator. But as she stared at Cassandra, the bride trapped in her chaos, an unexpected sense of kinship bloomed like a wildflower between them. "Don't worry," Amelia whispered, her voice a soothing balm. "We'll fix this." But then Cassandra's mother stormed in, heels clicking angrily against the wooden floor. "Get it together, dear. This is not the time." The woman's voice sliced through the collective breath of the crowd. "It's fine, Mom. Just give me a minute." Cassandra's voice rose, crackling with defiance, turning heads, stirring murmurs among the guests. Through the din, Amelia noticed a familiar face among the wedding guests. A charming, dark-haired man with a disarming smile. They had met before, hadn't they? But where? The connection thrummed in the air, tinged with recognition. Chaos swirled around them. Servers rushed to bring order. But there was something wrong. A dark undercurrent ran through the wedding that made Amelia's skin prickle. Not just the family drama, but something deeper. As Cassandra stumbled, Amelia caught her. Their hands intertwined, the warmth radiating like a secret pact. In that moment, the scar on Cassandra's arm seemed to pulse, alive with haunting memories Amelia couldn't grasp. With the celebration teetering on the edge of disaster, Amelia found herself at a crossroads. Should she step back into the shadows, or leap forward, ready to untangle the threads of this day? Just then, a shocking truth about the scar broke free, sending ripples through the crowd. The room held its breath. Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without warning. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're there, leave that powerful like that helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know each incredible person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Amelia's heart raced like the pounding surf just beyond the venue. The room buzzed with curiosity, the murmurs wrapping around her and Cassandra like a thick fog. Everyone was waiting watching, intent on what would unfold. The air felt charged. She held Cassandra's hand tightly, their connection a tether to something real amid the chaos. Cassandra's breaths came quick and shallow, her eyes darting around the room. I can't do this," she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. Desperation gripped her, raw and real. "Just breathe." Amelia squeezed her hand, wanting to share some strength. But before she could comfort her further, the atmosphere shifted, prickling with an intensity that sent shivers down her spine. The guests turned as a figure pushed through the crowd, a man with a fierce, determined look on his face. His eyes scanned the room like a hawk searching for prey. As he drew closer, recognition struck Amelia hard. Ethan. She had seen him at the cafe just last week, his laughter spilling over like a fine wine. But today, his expression was grim. "Cassandra!" he called out, cutting through the tension like a knife. The room fell silent. "Cassandra, you have to listen to me." Cassandra's gaze snapped to him, shock painting her features. "What are you doing here?" "I came to warn you." His voice rose, fierce and urgent. "It's about your scar." The comment hung in the air, so heavy that it seemed to suck the breath from everyone present. Amelia's grit faltered as Cassandra's confusion turned to fear. Panic erupted within her. What could he possibly mean? "Ethan, stop!" Cassandra shouted, her voice breaking. "You don't know what you're talking about." "I know more than you think." He stepped forward, determination flashing in his eyes. "I know how you got that scar. You have to remember, it's important." Gasps swept through the crowd like wildfire. Faces morphed from curiosity to shock, and whispers curled around the room like smoke. Amelia stood frozen. How could a mere scar hold such weight? "What do you mean?" Cassandra trembled, pain etched in her features. "I don't want to remember. Please just let it go." But Ethan pressed on, urgency etching deeper lines into his forehead. "You can't hide from the truth. That scar, it was no accident. It was the last thing you did before it all fell apart. You have to remember." A collective gasp echoed, rippling through the gathered guests. Amelia felt the ground shift beneath her. The meaning of those words ricocheted through her mind, each one sharp and cruel. The laughter, the joy of the wedding, was it all just a facade? What truth lay behind the bride's smile? Cassandra wrung her hands, her breath quickening. "I'll ruin everything!" she cried, voice cracking as tears spilled down her cheeks. "What will everyone think?" Amelia's heart ached for her, a knot forming deep in her chest. "Cassandra, don't listen to him," she urged, but she felt her own uncertainty seeping in. But then something snapped. In a moment of clarity, Cassandra looked at Ethan, and for the first time, Amelia saw recognition flit across her face. It was raw, jagged, like the scar itself. I do remember," Cassandra whispered, her voice breaking. Just then, the lights flickered ominously, plunging the room into semi-darkness. The sudden shift spurred a wave of fear as shadows danced wildly. The crowd murmured, panic stirring in their midst. Then a scream pierced through the air, sharp and startling. Ethan screamed, "Get back!" Something or someone crashed through the air. As she looked around, her heart racing, she lost sight of the bride. In that moment, everything shifted. The wedding wasn't just about love. It was a stage for secrets, lies, and an unraveling truth. Amelia felt that familiar knot in her stomach tighten, poised between fear and an unexplainable sense of dread. Where was Cassandra? What had Ethan unleashed? And what did it all mean for Amelia, standing alone in the chaos? The chaos erupted around Amelia, a tidal wave of bodies crashing against one another. She fought to stay grounded, searching desperately for Cassandra amid the pandemonium. Where had she gone? The lights flickered wildly, shadows stretching, twisting as panic gripped the crowd. "Cassandra!" Amelia shouted, her voice drowned out by the stampede. Everyone was scattering, eyes wide with fear. The scream still rang in her ears, echoing, a chilling reminder of the danger lurking in the air. With a sudden shove, Amelia stumbled backward, her own heart thudding against her ribs. She steadied herself, catching sight of Ethan, still standing with a fierce expression. He was trying to yell something, but the noise drowned him out. Muffled cries of confusion filled the room, like smoke. Everyone was caught in the frantic pulse of disaster. Then, like a silence blanket falling, the room hushed. Eyes turned toward the entrance as a figure stood framed in the doorway. Tall, dark, draped in a heavy cloak that fluttered despite the absence of wind. The moment stretched, a taut thread ready to snap. "Who are you?" someone called out, voice laced with rage and fear. The figure stepped forward, and as the lights stabilized, softening the tension, Amelia felt the air chill, even more than before. It was a woman, her face half hidden, but Amelia recognized the scar on her wrist. Gasps echoed through the crowd, voices overlapping in disbelief. "No way," someone murmured. "Is that?" Amelia blinked hard, trying to piece it together. "I'm here to warn you all," the woman spoke, her voice a husky whisper, echoing with urgency. "Cassandra is in danger. She has to remember." What did she mean? Cassandra had been confused, terrified. Could she really be in danger? The tension swelled once again as whispers spread through the room like wildfire. "Stop! You don't know what you're talking about!" Ethan cried, stepping forward, his hands balled into fists, eyes narrowing at the woman. "Oh, but I do," she shot back, her voice steady, unwavering. "You think you can save her? You don't even know the truth about that scar." Ethan's face paled, the confidence evaporating. "What truth?" he stammered, uncertainty creeping into his voice. Amelia felt a weight in her chest, the thrill of dread anchoring her feet. She could sense that something monumental was about to unfold, something that would change everything. "Years ago," the woman said, her eyes piercing into Ethan. "Cassandra and we were close. I took the fall, but she was left with scars. This moment has been years in the making." A collective gasp filled the room. Amelia shifted, her stomach dropping as the reality dawned. Cassandra wasn't just a frightened bride. Her life was entangled in something dark, something no one had seen coming. Suddenly, the woman threw back her hood, revealing a shocking resemblance to Cassandra. The crowd gasped anew, shockwaves rippling through the guests. "I'm her sister. You thought I was gone." Amelia's heart raced as everything shifted. Layers of deception unfolded like a worn-out book, pages flapping wildly. Relationships cracked under the pressure. The laughter, the joy, the wedding, all underpinned by a hidden grief. "Why didn't you tell her?" Ethan shouted. "You left her to deal with all of this alone?" "Because I didn't want to ruin her life," the sister cried, tears streaming down her face. "But now it's too late. We're in danger, all of us. They're coming back for what they lost." A scream ripped through the venue, sharper than before. Guests fell silent, eyes darting toward the source of the noise. The atmosphere thickened, each second heavy with dread. "What?" Amelia stuttered, confusion wrapping around her like a vice. Then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the lights died, plunging the venue into darkness. The air was thick with whispers, shouts of confusion, growing louder and wilder. A crushing fear surged through Amelia. She could sense betrayal, danger. Old wounds echoed in tension and shadows. Where was Cassandra? What was this dangerous secret that had come to light? And why did the dark force now swirl closer, waiting to strike? She felt a surge of desperation. There was no turning back. But in the heart of chaos, a chilling realization settled deep in her bones. Everything she thought she understood about this day, this moment, was built on lies. Amelia stood in the darkness, heart pounding, mind racing. The swirling shadows felt alive, like a coiled snake waiting to strike. She could still hear the woman's voice, a tremor of urgency echoing in her ears, but the moment felt like quicksand, pulling her into a void. "Cassandra!" she shouted again, throat raw, but the room was filled with chaos. Voices clamored over one another, echoed with fear. In the corner, a few guests huddled together, whispering frantically. Others fumbled for their phones, screens lighting up faces, casting an eerie glow. And then, amid the clamor, another scream cut through, sharp, raw. This one was different. It came from the entrance. A figure stepped forward, illuminated only by the dim light of a flashlight. Amelia squinted, trying to make sense of the sight. It was a man, rugged, with intense eyes that burned through the gloom. He bore an uncanny resemblance to Ethan, but there was something darker, more menacing about him. "Cassandra!" he roared, voice deep and commanding. The crowd fell silent, a collective breath held in fear. The bride's sister's confident facade cracked, her expression shifting to one of horror. "No, it can't be," she whispered. "Why did you come?" Ethan stepped forward, fists tight at his sides, face pale. "This was not your time! You weren't supposed to be here!" "What do you mean?" the sister asked, confused and trembling. "Who is he?" But before anyone could answer, he lunged forward, eyes locked on Cassandra. "You need to remember, Cass. It's already too late. They found you." Amelia's breath caught in her throat. "What does that mean?" she gasped, eyes darting from Ethan to the newcomer and back. The connections tangled like a web, each thread more complex than the last. The man's gaze flickered to Amelia, and she felt a chill seep into her bones. "You're part of this too," he said, his tone dark and direct. "You don't even know." Suddenly, the lights flickered back on, illuminating the entire room in stark contrast. Gasps erupted once more as the glow revealed familiar faces. Friends, family, all caught in the unfolding storm. But it was what happened next that truly stole the breath from everyone present. Cassandra stepped back, hands trembling, eyes wide. "No, no, you can't be here! I thought you were gone." The revelation hung heavy in the air, the reality crashing down like thunder. Amelia's mind raced. Did Cassandra know this man? Had she lost someone she loved? Without another word, he raised his hand, revealing something glimmering, a small, ornate locket. "You promised you wouldn't forget. You promised, and I held this for you. You need to remember what we did." Amelia's heart sank like a stone. She could feel the air thickening, a palpable dread surrounding them. The crowd murmured, eyes darting between the trio as confusion morphed into shock. "No!" Cassandra cried, tears streaming down her face. "Stop! I can't remember. I can't go back there. I can't let you forget. You have to confront it, or they'll come for you again," he shouted, desperation lacing every word. The tension shifted again, crackling in the air. It felt electric, sharp. The man stepped closer, voice urgent but low, almost pleading. Cassandra, you're not alone. You never were. I was watching, always watching. What did he mean? Amelia's heart raced, the panic surging again. This moment, this revelation, seemed to rip apart the curtain they had all been hiding behind. She gripped her chest, feeling the weight of the unknown crush her. With sheer determination, the man pressed on, his gaze unwavering. You have to choose. Face it, or run from it forever. But if you don't remember, none of us will be safe. But as he spoke, a sudden noise broke through the thickening tension. The front doors slammed open, and everyone turned in disbelief. A group of men entered, faces hidden beneath dark hoods, eyes cold and cruel. Whispers of panic erupted among the guests again. Amelia's heart sank, dread wrapping tightly around her. Everything was unraveling, layers of deceit tearing apart to reveal a chilling truth. Cassandra stood frozen, the looming danger shifting the ground beneath them. In that instant, everything changed. The wedding, the cruel secrets, the bonds of trust, all twisted together into a horrifying reality. What do they want? Amelia gasped, fear rushing through her. As the hooded figures advanced, tension crackled like electricity in the air. Cassandra clutched her locket, emotions swirling like the chaos around them. Just then, the man stepped in front of her, defiant. "Run!" he shouted. But Amelia stood rooted, uncertainty gripping her. The truth was unraveling, and the fight was just beginning. What lay ahead would transform everything, and she wasn't sure who would emerge unscathed, or if they even could. All she knew was that the storm was far from over. Amelia stood frozen, heart racing in the dim light. The hooded figures moved closer, shadows inching forward like a predator closing in on its prey. The tension hung thick in the air. Each breath felt like a gasp. Cassandra remained rigid, eyes darting between the man and the sister, urgent, desperate. What do they want? But before anyone could respond, he lunged forward. With one swift move, he tore the locket from Cassandra's fingers, revealing a photograph inside. Shock rippled through the crowd. A younger version of Cassandra, but beside her stood someone else, a girl with a familiar smile, eyes shining with mischief. "Who is she?" Amelia gasped, feeling the weight of the moment pressing down. "That's Emily, my twin sister," Cassandra whispered, horror etching her features, a realization dawning across her face. "She's gone. She died in that accident." "Not entirely true," the man shot back, desperation lacing his voice as he held the locket high. "She was taken from us, Cassandra. Taken by the same people who are here tonight." Disbelief crashed against Amelia, like waves against rock. Memories swirled in her mind. Cassandra's reassurance, her laughter, but suddenly everything felt fractured. A low rumble echoed from the entrance as the hooded figures moved in closer. Furtive whispers ricocheted among the guests, a mix of fear and confusion. "Who is that?" someone murmured. Fingers pointed, faces pale. The crowd thickened, pressing like a tide against the chaos, and Amelia felt herself pushed back. "Emily, no!" Cassandra cried, her voice fracking. The man tightened his grip on the locket. "You have to remember, Cass, if you know the truth, you can stop them." The words cut deep. A silence fell among the guests, tense and thick as fog. Amelia noticed tears running down Cassandra's cheeks, and a deep ache filled her chest. She felt it too, the weight of hidden truths and lost love. But the ominous dark figures loomed larger, their intentions unreadable. Suddenly, a loud crash erupted as one of the hooded men shoved through the crowd. He flung aside chairs, eyes wild, voice dripping with malice. We're done playing games. Amelia's breath hitched. Stay back, she shouted, the words escaping her lips like a desperate plea. What do you want? Ethan shouted, stepping forward, defiant but shaking. But the man only smirked, a cruel twist of his mouth. You have something we need. The locket brings power. The crowd surged backward, fear sparking panic. Amelia searched desperately for a way out, but her eyes lingered on Cassandra, standing still like a statue, grappling with the weight of the world. Cassandra, don't! Ethan shouted, but it was too late. The bride's voice caught in her throat. Something shifted. The sister took a step toward the man, eyes narrowing. What do you mean, power? Emily's power? The man laughed, a chilling sound echoing through the hall. Oh, it's so much more than that. You have no idea what she really could do. Then the room darkened again, lights flickering, shadows dancing. Amelia felt the terror rise, chilling her to the bone. What do you mean? Cassandra's voice trembled, panic rising anew. And with that, a blinding flash erupted. Light exploded in the air, bright and searing, blinding everyone. Screams filled the space. Shadows flickered wildly, and in that instant, the world shifted again. The air crackled, a fierce energy surging, shattering the moment. When the light faded, everything was different. The figures were gone. The crowd stood in shock, faces pale and hearts racing. But something profound had changed. Cassandra gasped, clutching her head as memory surged. I remember everything. Amelia's heart raced. A deep sense of dread settled, intertwining with the realization that this was just the beginning. What did she remember? What dark legacy had woken? And ultimately, who was truly in danger now? The shadows were still lurking, and the storm was far from over. Cassandra's eyes shimmered with realization. The memory surged within her, like a wave crashing against the shore. Emily, she breathed, her voice barely a whisper. The room seemed to pulse with her fear, confusion lurking on the edges, unwilling to let go of its grip on the moment. Amelia stood close, heart pounding in tandem with the rising tension. The hooded figures were still there, looming like dark clouds, ready to unleash a storm. Their threat hovered like an impending disaster, and everyone in the room could feel it. Cassandra, you need to remember what happened that night, the man urged, urgency bleeding through. We can't let them take you again. Just as Cassandra opened her mouth to respond, the air shifted. A pressure filled the room, almost electric. Suddenly, a scream erupted, raw and savage. Everyone's heads whipped toward the source, wide-eyed. But the scream wasn't from the hooded figures or from Cassandra. It came from the sister, who was backing away, fear etched on her face. The locket slipped from the man's fingers, clattering to the ground. The noise echoed, a haunting reminder of the chaos unfolding. It bounced across the polished floor, landing at Amelia's feet. What do you know about Emily? Cassandra's voice was strained, barely holding back the rising tide of panic. But before anyone could answer, the sister's panic transformed into something else, recognition. No. It can't be, she gasped, eyes darting back to the looming figures. The truth hung heavy, as if the air had thickened. In that instant, the lead hooded figure stepped forward, a hand reaching up to remove the disguise. Amelia squinted, her heart pounding like a drum. As the hood fell, a familiar face emerged, one that twisted everything she thought she knew into a tight knot. "Mom!" Cassandra gasped. "How could you?" the sister shouted, voice cracking. Amelia's mind raced. The shock slammed into her like a freight train. The woman they thought was part of their family, Cassandra's mother, was standing there, eyes fierce and calculating, as though she had orchestrated everything. "You've come back to finish what you started," the sister accused, her breaths coming in heaves. "No, I'm here to protect her," their mother insisted, desperation edging her voice. But the look in her eyes told a different story. Betrayal hung heavy like a dark cloud ready to burst. I thought you died." Cassandra's voice trembled, disbelief etched on her features. "I faked my death to keep you safe," their mother snapped, gaze flitting nervously to the hooded figures. "I had to." "Safe from what? From your own daughter?" The words cut sharply. The tension sparking to life again. Amelia felt as if she were watching a play unravel, emotions playing out in real time, and she was trapped in the front row. Suddenly, the lead hooded figure stepped closer, voice low and silky. "You've all been too careless. I told you she would remember." With a sudden loud crackle, the power surged back, lights flickering to life. The room filled with a harsh brightness, casting stark shadows. And the fear erupted in a wave of panic again. "Get back!" Amelia shouted, instinctively stepping in front of Cassandra, ready to protect her. But then the world seemed to fracture again. Without warning, the man lunged forward, grabbing the locket off the ground. "This is what we need," he shouted, desperation driving him. Cassandra screamed, "No, don't!" Her voice was filled with terror, eyes wide as she reached for the locket, but before she could grab it, he yanked it back. In that moment, everything changed. A blinding light erupted from the locket, engulfing them all. The air crackled with energy. A sound like thunder reverberated through the space, and the ground shook beneath their feet. People screamed, a cacophony of voices merging into chaos. And then it stopped. The light faded, leaving a silence that felt deafening. Amelia blinked, trying to reorient herself. The room was the same, but something was different. The hooded figures were gone. The crowd was still there, but their faces were slack, their eyes glazed over, as though they were caught in a trance. "What just happened?" Ethan whispered, looking around, confusion etched on his features. But all eyes were on Cassandra. She stood frozen, locket in hand, green eyes wide in shock. "Mom?" she whispered. "What did you do?" That's when realization hit Amelia. This wasn't just a wedding gone wrong. It was something much darker, something tangled with their past. And the truth was something none of them were ready to face. The stakes had just gone higher. Relationships were hanging by a thread, and there was no telling what would happen next. A shadow loomed over them. What breakthrough had been unleashed? What had they truly awakened? And for Amelia, it became all too clear. The real danger was just beginning. Cassandra stood trembling, the locket clutched tightly in her hand. Confusion etched deep on her face. "Mom?" Amelia felt her heart pound harder, the air thick with dread. The realization reverberated through the crowd, leaving whispers hanging in the air, a dark fog of disbelief. Everyone's eyes flicked between Cassandra and their mother, searching for answers, desperate to understand. "What have you done?" The sister shouted, her voice a mixture of anger and hurt. She stepped closer, fists clenched, the tension crackling between them like heated metal. "You lied to us. All these years, you made us believe you were—" Her words hung like stones, heavy and unforgiving. Their mother's face hardened, lips pressed tight, panic flickering in her eyes. "Emily was taken," she shouted back, desperation edging her voice. "I couldn't put you in danger. I thought keeping my distance would protect you." But Amelia's gaze was locked on Cassandra. Something shifted in her eyes, a flicker of recognition, realization, and anger. Suddenly, it sounded like thunder, and the lights above them flickered again, casting eerie shadows across tense expressions. "Cassandra," the man urged again, stepping forward, his earlier determination seeming to dim. "You need to remember what happened that night for your safety." "I don't want to remember," Cassandra yelled, tears pooling in her eyes. "I can't. If I remember, it'll hurt us all." But just as the words escaped her, a loud crash erupted from the back of the venue, causing people to jump. Plates shattered against the ground, and a heavy silence gripped the room for a heartbeat. Amelia instinctively moved closer to Cassandra, ready to protect her as the remaining crowd shuffled uneasily, eyes darting to the source of the noise. Then, the tension broke like a dam. A woman burst into the room, eyes wild, hair disheveled, shouting frantically. "Get away from her! Don't you dare touch her!" Everyone froze. The room held its breath, eyes wide in shock. The gasps rippled through the guests, confusion morphing into an unsettling sense of fear. "Who is this?" someone whispered bewilderedly. Cassandra's mother stepped back, horror spreading across her face. "You shouldn't be here," she shouted. But the woman advanced, wild and fierce. "Where is Emily? What have you done?" the newcomer cried, eyes glaring at the mother. "It's time for the truth. Get out!" Ethan stepped up, voice filled with authority, but uncertainty flickered in his eyes. Amelia's stomach dropped as the woman pulled a small piece of paper from her pocket, waving it in the air. "I have proof. I know what happened. You've been lying, all of you." The crowd erupted into chaos as Amelia struggled to make sense of it all. The fabric of their reality twisted and turned in the air, everything she thought she understood unraveling like a loose thread. "What are you talking about?" Cassandra's voice trembled, doubt flaring in her eyes as she stepped back, uncertainty echoing in her chest. The newcomer's face was set, intensity burning in her gaze. "Cassandra, you have no idea who you really are." Amelia felt her breath hitch. The words hung in the air, heavy and ominous. But before anyone could respond, the woman continued, "You're not just a bride. You're not just a daughter. You're the key to everything they want." Cassandra's face drained of color, her eyes wide. "What? No, that can't be true." But the woman took a step closer, voice low and conspiratorial. "The locket is a gateway, Cassandra. You were born into this. Embrace it or you'll lose everything." Again. And as those words left her lips, the ground shook. A swirling pulse of energy erupted from the locket in Cassandra's hand, radiating outward in blinding light, encircling them, consuming them all whole. Everything froze. Shockwaves rippled through the crowd, faces reflecting disbelief. Amelia's heart pounded, struck by a sense of dread that squeezed tightly around her chest. What did it mean? The air was charged with uncertainty, every breath heavy with heavy truths that threatened to drown them. As the light intensified, it felt like the edges of their very world were disintegrating. Within that chaos, the bond between Cassandra and her mother crumbled. Silence settled, heavy with unanswered questions. Memories, pain, power. What had they awakened? Was everything they'd held dear a smokescreen? In that moment, Amelia's world shifted, sending her tumbling into a chasm of uncertainty. The true danger was just beginning to unfold. And standing at the center of it all was Cassandra, gripping her locket, face set with determination, poised on the brink of destiny. But would she choose to confront it? Or would it consume them all? The blinding light flickered and dimmed, but the weight of the revelation pressed down on them all. Cassandra stood at the center, heart racing, clutching the locket. The energy around her pulsed with power, but the panic in the room twisted into something darker. "Cassandra, You have to remember, the man shouted again, voice urgent. Her mother's eyes filled with fear, but something else stirred behind them, an emotion too complex to decipher. Why? Cassandra spat, trembling. Why should I trust anyone now? The air hummed with tension, the crowd holding its breath, bodies perfectly still. Then the wild woman spoke again, eyes blazing. Because you were always meant to lead. Your destiny is bigger than any of us know. Stop! Their mother's voice sliced through the air, desperation spilling out. You don't understand what you're asking her to do. And just like that, another scream erupted, this time from outside the venue. It shattered the thick tension like glass. A crash of sound echoed, insistent and close. Amelia felt the ground shift beneath her, and she turned instinctively towards the entrance. The crowd shifted uneasily. The lights flickered again, but this time a shadow appeared in the doorway. A figure cloaked in black, face obscured. He stepped forward, the tension growing sharper, heavier. Move! He roared, his voice gravelly, slicing through the confusion. His eyes glinted with a cold fire, searching the crowd. Run! The newcomer shouted, hands raised, as if signaling for everyone to scatter. But instead, they froze in place, frozen like deer in headlights, fear holding each person in its grip. Cassandra backed away instinctively, but the man with the locket lunged forward. No! You can't let them take you again, Cassandra. What do you mean? Cassandra cried, her voice shaking. But before he could explain, the shadowy figure surged into the venue, overwhelmed by the shrieks of fear. He was here for one reason, and it became clear when he revealed a small dagger, shimmering ominously in the light. Stay back, he demanded, raising the weapon high. The crowd gasped collectively, the fear rising like a tidal wave. Don't hurt her, Ethan shouted, stepping protectively forward, fists clenched, heart hammering in his chest. But even he was trembling, uncertainty drenching his bravado. At that moment, as the tension reached a fever pitch, the man with the locket grabbed Cassandra's hand. Listen to me. They are after you, I promise. You need to grasp your power, or... And before he could finish, the cloaked figure lunged, dagger aimed directly at Cassandra. But in a split second, the man shifted, pushing Cassandra aside with force, taking the blow meant for her. Time froze. Everything hung in the balance as the dagger plunged deep into his side. The crowd gasped, horror etched on every face. Cassandra screamed, her heart wrenching at the sudden twist. Blood blossomed from his wound, stark against his shirt, soaking through crimson. No, she cried out, stumbling forward, desperation clawing at her throat. He collapsed to the ground, gasping for breath. But his eyes remained locked on Cassandra's. You must remember. And just like that, a light seeped from the locket in Cassandra's hand, illuminating the chaos around them. Instinctively, everyone shielded their eyes. The brightness enveloped the room, wrapping around them like a living being. As the light pulsed, the cloaked figure fell back, eyes wide and stunned. But then, something unexpected happened. Cassandra's features transformed, her eyes changing color, glinting with a fierce light. Cassandra? Amelia breathed, a chill racing down her spine. I am not who you think I am, she said, voice echoing, layered with authority that rang clear. Then in a sudden rush, as if a dam had burst, memories flooded into her mind, visions of a past long hidden. Emily, she wanted this. All eyes were on Cassandra, their worlds spinning. The dagger lay forgotten, the man bleeding on the floor. But the truth was there, raw and painful, waiting to break free. Then the realization shattered everything that had solid ground. She wasn't just a bride or a daughter. She was a link to a power far beyond any of them. And as the glow intensified, the energy surged outward, increasing like wildfire. The cloaked figure gasped in fear as everything around them warped, the reality bending as dark forces approached. When the light receded, the true danger had been revealed. Suddenly, Cassandra stepped forward, face set with determination, but a deep, unfathomable sadness reflected in her eyes. But that means one crucial thing. As she spoke, the crowd held their breath, the air thick with anticipation, shock radiating through them. And then she turned, eyes fierce. "You don't know who I am, or who you are to me." Amelia's heart raced, confusion flooding her mind. She had thought she understood, yet everything had just shifted. The danger was greater than she'd imagined, woven into their very lives. The darkness loomed closer, threatening to consume them. Leaving them all standing on the brink of chaos, reality twisting again. And just before Cassandra could reveal the truth, everything plunged into darkness once more. Cassandra stood tall, fierceness pulsing through her as she faced the crowd. The light blossomed from the locket in her hand, a brilliant halo around her. "I remember everything, but that means one crucial thing." Her voice was steady, filled with a strength she didn't know she had. But before she could reveal what that meant, everything shifted again. It felt like an earthquake, rattling their bones. Gasps filled the air. People stumbled. Voices rose in a chaotic crescendo, fear radiating like wildfire. Amelia instinctively reached for Cassandra, grabbing her arm tight. "What's happening?" But Cassandra's focus was elsewhere, eyes locked on the cloaked figure, who seemed unfazed by the chaos surrounding him. "You don't know who I am, or who you are to me." She stepped forward, the light from the locket intensifying. Illuminating shadows that grew darker, in a moment that felt suspended in time, silence struck. The chaotic murmurs faded. Then, with a spine-chilling crack, the cloaked figure pulled back his hood. A collective gasp rippled through the room as the crowd registered the face beneath. It was him, the man who claimed to be Cassandra's friend, but there was a deeper connection, a bond too strong to ignore. "No," Cassandra whispered, betrayal mingling with horror. "It can't be." The man's lips curled into a twisted smile. "Oh, it can, Cassandra. I've been waiting for you to remember." The tension thickened like fog, suffocating them all. The energy pulsated with each heartbeat, the glow around Cassandra flickering. Her grip tightened around the locket, knuckles white. "Why are you doing this?" she shouted, the determination warring with the loss creeping in. "I'm here to show you the truth," he spat, eyes glinting with manic intensity. "It's time to unleash the power within you, the power you were born with." Suddenly, the light erupted in blinding brilliance. Everyone shielded their eyes as the energy rippled outward like a shockwave. Amelia felt herself being pushed back. The force knocked her off balance, her heart racing, mind scrambling. When the light faded, everything looked shattered, reality warped. Cassandra's eyes were wide, reflecting disbelief. But then, something strange happened. Cassandra turned her gaze back toward her mother. "You did this, didn't you?" Their mother's face morphed, surprise flipping to something darker. "I did what I had to do to protect you. I thought if you forgot, they wouldn't come for you." "But this was never about me," Cassandra cried. "It's about Emily. You left her behind." The crowd held its breath, the new realization settling heavy in the air. The cloaked figure laughed, a chilling sound. This isn't just about family, he sneered. It's about legacy, and I am the one who will claim it. Amelia's heart pounded. What did he mean? Suddenly, she felt the ground quake beneath her again, stronger this time. The lights flickered wildly, a sense of urgency enveloping everything. Then came the reveal. A shattering revelation that would change everything. "You're not just her friend," Cassandra murmured, voice trembling. "Are you?" With a wicked grin, he stepped closer, the shadows closing in. "I'm your brother, Cassandra, your twin." Shockwaves rippled through the crowd. Confusion, despair, betrayal. Not just another piece of the puzzle, but a new reality crashing down. Everything familiar twisted into something terrifying. Cassandra stepped back, breath hitching. "No, that's not possible." "Yes, it is," he shouted, voice rising. "And now the world will pay for what they took from us." Before anyone could react, he lunged forward, the energy from the locket bursting outward. The force knocked them all back, screams filling the air as darkness enveloped them once more. Amelia's world exploded into confusion. The bounds of their reality shifted, leaving her spiraling in uncertainty. Was everything a lie? Who could they trust? She clutched at the ground, panic surging through her. And just like that, it all faded to black. The only sound remaining was the echo of a distant, chilling laugh, resonating in the silence of the chaos left behind. What dark secrets had been unleashed? And as the shadows crept closer, uncertainty loomed. What would be left when they emerged? The darkness was thick, a heavy blanket muffling the chaos. But beneath it, a pulse of energy resonated, spilling over like a flickering flame. Suddenly, a sharp gasp shattered the silence. Cassandra's eyes widened, the unspoken truth dawning. "I can feel it! The power!" she murmured, her voice raw with disbelief, as if she were awakening from a long sleep. The light from the locket flickered, illuminating her features. In that moment, every secret, every whisper of the past came crashing back like tidal waves. But they didn't just crash, they dragged everyone along. "Cassandra!" Amelia shouted, reaching for her, desperation rising. "Don't let it consume you!" But the urgency in her voice fell flat against the chaos swirling around her. The cloaked figure, her brother, his eyes glinted with something more than anger. It was hunger. He stepped closer, the shadows flickering, a predator closing in on its prey. "You're meant for this, Cass. Embrace it. Finally, we can finish what was started." "No!" Cassandra cried, shaking her head violently. Yet the light pulsed again, weaving through her fingers. Beneath the glow, the crowd seemed to hold their breath, tension binding them, as rigid as iron. They watched in a mix of horror and fascination, suffocating in the fear of what could unfold. Just then, a commotion near the door erupted, fast and furious. People spun around, gasping. Another man crashed in, breathless, eyes wild. He wore a face of panic that gripped the crowd. "You have to get out." "They're coming!" Amelia's heart raced. Who? Who's coming? But no one had the time to process as the cloaked figures outside surged in. A wave of dark intent, driven by something more sinister than their vendetta. They flooded in like a black tide, shoving guests aside, eyes gleaming, searching for someone. And it wasn't just Cassandra. Cassandra felt her heartbeat quicken, driven by primal fear. "What do they want?" she whispered, backing away. "Everyone," the newcomer shouted. Panic etched deep in his features. They want everyone connected to the legacy. And as the words echoed in the air, the locket pulsated powerfully, almost alive. Suddenly, it burst open, revealing the photograph of Emily. A brilliant light streamed from it, shooting upwards, illuminating the entire room. It engulfed everything, spilling warmth and fright. And then the unimaginable happened. As the light surged, shadows twisted, bending and collapsing into one form. A figure emerged, materializing in fragments of light and darkness. When it finally solidified, the crowd gasped. It was Emily, her twin, vibrant and whole, flickering like a live wire. She looked around, eyes fierce yet soft, filled with secrets untold. "You thought you could forget me?" she challenged, voice resonating through everyone like a haunting melody. Every jaw dropped. Amelia stumbled back, heart pounding in her ears. "Emily," she whispered, heart racing with confusion and hope intertwined. "But how?" "I've been waiting," Emily said, addressing the room, gaze focused. "Waiting for the moment when you would remember who you are. You're not just a bride. Cassandra, you're a key." Cassandra faltered, hands shaking, the weight of it crashing down like a brick. Her reality shifted yet again, pulling taut like a stretched bow. Key to what? But before she could grasp the significance, the cloaked figures lunged forward as one, driven by desperation and fury. "No!" Emily screamed, stepping protectively in front of Cassandra, just as the shadows surged. In a flash, chaos erupted. Bright light, screams, a cacophony of sound. Bodies were pushed and thrust, panic tearing through the crowd like a wildfire. Cassandra reached out, but Emily's presence flickered, the glow dimming. "You need to unlock it. Remember the night. Remember our promise." Just then, everything exploded into a vortex of shadows. The cloaked figures twisted and turned, each face revealing a hunger for something far beyond understanding. And in the thick of it all, Cassandra felt a sharp pain in her stomach. Her brother was closer than she thought, blade glinting in hand. "You won't escape this time, beloved sister." The world stilled. Amelia stood, heart pounding, the truth crashing in waves. Cassandra's ties ran deeper than she could fathom, and as the blade raced toward her, with all eyes fixed in disbelief, the piercing question lingered. Whose side was she really on? But then the ground shook again, and with it, the very fabric of truth unraveled.